Hi, in this video tutorial, we'll be sending the output of VDMX to processing using Siphon. To begin, we're going to create a processing document that can receive Siphon feeds. We'll go to the examples, and under contributed libraries, where it says Siphon, we're going to use this getImage example to begin. And you can look at how the code for that works here. But first, let's go over to VDMX and actually create a signal. So I'm going to start with a new project and load in some video clips. Next, I'm going to load up the Siphon player template, and we can hide these controls. And this, for starters, just generates a checkerboard pattern. If we want to hide the full screen in VDMX, we could go to the window menu, go to full screen options when we choose full screen, and make sure that display 0 is turned off. And that way we'll just get this preview up here. Next, we'll go back to processing, and we'll run this sketch. And there we go. We have the image that's being generated from VDMX being received in our processing for output. And if we trigger one of these compositions, it'll appear right there in our processing sketch for output. Likewise, we can go into our import media window, and we could use things like our FaceTime camera and trigger that. Hello, and now that's being received. Or we can go under our ISF sources and load in some examples from here and just add those in. And this way you can use anything from VDMX that's a source and publish it out to use in processing. And this is going through an effect here, so we can also zoom in if we want. Cool. So that's the very basic usage of what we're doing here. The next thing we're going to want to do, let's switch back to a movie, or in fact, let's go back to checkerboard, because that's a great example. So let's switch back over to processing and stop the sketch here. The next thing we might want to do is add Siphon receiving to some other existing sketch. So let's go up here, and one that I really enjoy is planets. So if you were to run this, here we have the Sun and Mercury and Earth. And what we're going to do for this is, instead of having Earth rendered as a texture from here, we're going to render it in VDMX. So one detail is, if you kind of go through the code here, you'll find that there's a file called planet.jpg. We can load this up in the Finder. Oh, planet.jpg. Let's see if we can find it this way. Planets. Planet.jpg. There we go. So now I'm going to switch back over to VDMX, and I'm going to make a new project for now. And I'm going to load in planet.jpg and just start off with this, playing back. And going to make my canvas main output into the same size as this layer so that we can output that and mix this together with some other things. So one detail for this is that we're going to be wrapping onto one of those spherical textures, so we need to make our output exactly 512 by 256, or some multiple of that. So 512 and 256. And since we're starting from scratch here, I'm just going to go in, create a Siphon output plugin, and publish the main output. Now let's pop back over to processing. So we'll hide that and hide that. Okay, so to begin, we're going to need a few things from this code here. We'll need to grab the code that imports Siphon and the ability to create the Siphon client itself. And we'll add that in here. Now this code, the way that it's set up, will grab the first available Siphon client. There is sample code that will let you work with multiple clients at a time. So now, the other bit of code that we need here is this. And what we'll do is, normally where we start to draw planet 1, we'll also add in a new bit of code here. And we'll say if there's a new frame from the client, but instead of drawing the image, we're going to copy this little bit up here, which says planet 1 set texture. And the set texture will be to that. Now, since this is a read-only document, we'll need to create a version of it, so we'll call this our siphon example. Great. So now, if we run this, we have our planet. If we go back over to VDMX, and we switch to some other content like our checkerboard, now our checkerboard is replaced by where the planet is. And we can, of course, adjust the content for that to be whatever we want. We can apply effects, so let's say we want to do something like side scroller and flip. We can rotate our checkerboard, we can right click on it and assign something to the clock there. One other detail that we could do is instead of having this running this way, we can, let's disable that, that's a little distracting. We can also do effects directly onto the main output, or we can have additional layers. So we can have our planet, and we can add another layer that potentially has maybe our color grid test, and adjust the opacity of that, maybe do something with that. So this is just a short example of what you can do by combining processing and VDMX. Thanks for watching.